All right, fellow Redditors, buckle up because I've got a fresh one for you. I'm Kai, and this little gem happened just last week at a big tech convention in one of those cities that's basically 90% tourists. I was there to present some pretty cool findings, feeling sharp in my best dark blue business suit, my trusty and expensive laptop clutched in hand, ready to wow the crowds. You know the vibe. So I just finished my presentation, nailed it, by the way, and was basking in that post-stage glow when I literally bumped into Sarah, an old classmate from nursing school. Small world, right? We decided to grab a coffee on the hotel patio, catch up on the last few years. The sun was out, there was a nice little breeze, and for a moment, life was pretty sweet. Then nature called for Sarah, and she excused herself to find the restroom. I figured, perfect time to check my emails, maybe bask a little more. I'm scrolling through, minding my own business, when this woman, let's call her Karen because, well, you'll see, materializes next to my table. She had that look, you know. The one that says, the world revolves around me, and you're currently in my orbit, peasant. Excuse me, she huffed, gesturing with a flick of her wrist. We're ready to order. I blinked, looking up from my phone. Oh, I'm sorry, I said, trying for polite. I don't actually work for the hotel. I'm a guest here for the convention. I even gestured vaguely at my convention badge still clipped to my suit. Karen's perfectly plucked eyebrows shot up. Her lips thinned. Well, that's just not good enough, she snapped, pointing a perfectly manicured finger towards a couple of other tables where, coincidentally, a few other women in business attire were also enjoying the patio. Those other servers aren't busy. Get one of them then, or are you all just standing around being lazy? I was genuinely confused for a second. My servers, a lady, I started. Like I said, I don't work here. Those are probably other guests too. I shrugged, trying to disengage, and turned back to my phone, hoping she'd just evaporate. Big mistake, huge. A beat of silence, then I heard a sharp intake of breath. Before I could even look up, a tidal wave of lukewarm coffee and ice water cascaded all over me. My suit, my shirt, and my heart sank, my open laptop. My precious presentation-filled laptop. I shot up, coffee dripping from my hair, absolutely seething. What the actual hell do you think you're doing? I roared. I'm usually a pretty calm guy, but this was a declaration of war. Karen, believe it or not, looked smug. Well, you were ignoring me. You need to learn some customer service. And then, the absolute audacity, she actually reared back to slap me. Luckily, a real server who'd seen the commotion darted over and caught her wrist mid-swing. Ma'am, he exclaimed, he really doesn't work here. He's a guest. Suddenly, it was a whole scene. Security materialized, a manager bustled over looking stressed, and Karen started her predictable tirade. This is outrageous. I've never been treated so poorly. He assaulted me. I'm going to sue this hotel. I'm going to sue him. She was practically vibrating with self-righteous fury. I meanwhile was trying to assess the damage to my laptop, which was making some very unhappy gurgling noises. I explained my side to the manager, calmly but firmly, pointing out my drenched state and my now possibly deceased computer. The manager, bless him, was a pro. He listened to Karen's screeching monologue, then very calmly informed her that her behavior was unacceptable. She had assaulted another guest and she was being trespassed from the hotel. Immediately. The look on her face when security escorted her, still sputtering, out the door was almost worth the soaked suit. Almost. To his credit, the manager was super apologetic. They offered to dry clean my suit, of course. But the real kicker, a full paid weekend reservation at the hotel anytime I wanted, as compensation for the sheer awfulness of it all. And after a bit of back and forth with their insurance about my poor, drowned laptop, RIP motherboard, I got a settlement of €3,500 to replace it. So yeah, that was my brush with a wild Karen in her natural habitat. Got a new laptop out of it and a story for you fine folks. Stay safe out there, and remember, sometimes not working there can be surprisingly profitable.
If you're still watching, you're clearly into this stuff. Go ahead and subscribe. I've got more stories just like these. Now, on to the last one.
So picture this, it's a Tuesday, I think, just a regular errand day. I'm rocking my standard off-duty uniform, a plain red t-shirt and some khaki shorts. You know the look. Apparently, it's also the unofficial please mistake me for a Target employee starter pack. I was at Target, naturally, on a mission for cat litter, and that one specific brand of salsa they only seem to stock intermittently. Almost immediately, I'm getting flagged down. Excuse me, do you have this in a medium? Can you check a price on this for me? Politely, I'm like, oh, sorry, I don't actually work here. Smile, nod, move on. This happened, no joke, like 3 or 4 times. My patience was wearing thinner than a cheap paper towel, but I was trying to keep my cool. I just wanted my salsa, man. I finally spot the elusive salsa, grab it, and I'm heading towards the checkout feeling a tiny thrill of victory. That's when this guy materializes. He was huge, built like a brick outhouse, and his face was a thundercloud. Red-rimmed eyes, jaw clenched so tight I was surprised his teeth didn't shatter. He looked like he was about 2 seconds from hulking out. Before I can even process, he's right up in my personal space. Hey, you, he barks, his voice raspy with anger, and then bam, his hand shoots out and clamps onto my arm like a vice. Not a gentle excuse me tap. We're talking a full-on, painful, you're not going anywhere grip. My brain just went into pure, unadulterated panic mode. I'm not a fighter at all, but it was pure instinct, that fight or flight thing kicking in hard. I yelped something like, get off me, and without even thinking my free hand shot out. I wasn't aiming, wasn't trying to be a hero, I just reacted. My fist connected with his throat. It was a shocking moment for both of us, I think. He immediately let go, stumbling back, clutching his neck, making these awful gagging, coughing sounds. His face went from furious to shocked and kinda purple. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I just stood there for a split second, eyes wide, thinking, oh God, what did I just do? Then self-preservation kicked in again. I didn't stick around to see what happened next. I bolted. We're talking Olympic-level sprinting through the aisles, dodging old ladies and rogue shopping carts. I burst out of the store, fumbled for my phone, and shakily dialed 911, babbling about being assaulted. They told me to find a safe spot, so I ducked behind a giant planter near the entrance, peeking out like a terrified meerkat. The cops rolled up pretty quick. I pointed out the guy, who was now sitting on a bench outside, still looking rough but breathing, thankfully. They went over, talked to him, and next thing I know, he's in cuffs and being led to a squad car. An officer came over to me, took my statement. He asked if I wanted to press charges. And here's the thing, looking at the guy then, slumped and defeated, all the fight gone out of him, he just looked broken. Not like a monster, but like someone having the worst day of their entire life. So I said no. I just wanted to go home. The next few weeks I was definitely a bit jumpier in stores, especially if I was wearing red. But life goes on, right? Then maybe a month later, I'm at this little local co-op grabbing some fancy cheese. And who do I see perusing the artisanal bread? Yep, Mr. Target Takedown. My stomach did a little flip. He saw me at the same moment and his eyes widened. I tensed, ready to, I don't know, throw a baguette at him or something. But instead of aggression, he just looked mortified. He walked over, hands kinda raised in a placating gesture, a sheepish, almost pained grin on his face. Hey, he said, his voice much quieter than I remembered. Look, I owe you a massive apology. I was stunned. He went on to explain that the day at Target, his grandfather, who'd basically raised him, had passed away that morning. He'd been a wreck, consumed by grief and anger, and had apparently been trying to find some specific sympathy card or something, getting increasingly frustrated. He said he'd been lashing out at everyone and, in his clouded state, had mistaken me for yet another unhelpful employee. He wasn't excusing it, he said, just explaining. He told me he'd started grief counseling and was really trying to get his head straight. Then the guy, whose name I learned was Mark, actually offered to buy my fancy cheese and the ridiculously expensive sourdough I was eyeing. It was such an unexpected gesture. I was still a bit wary, but he seemed so genuinely remorseful. We ended up grabbing a coffee at the little cafe in the co-op. It was a bit awkward at first, but we talked, really talked. It was a wild ride, from mistaken identity to a throat punch to an unexpected moment of, I guess, human connection. He was just a guy overwhelmed by grief, and I was just a guy who really didn't work at Target. Crazy how things turn out, eh? Anyway, that's my story. Stay safe out there, and maybe avoid wearing red and khakis to Target unless you're actually on the clock.
Hey Redditors, Ethan here, and man, do I have a classic I don't work here lady for you. This isn't just a mistaken identity story. This is a full-blown lunchtime meltdown that honestly still makes me chuckle. So buckle up, 'cause it was a wild ride. It was one of those Tuesdays, the kind where the office clock seems to be moving backward. My escape plan, the nearby chain restaurant, home of the legendary unlimited soup and salad deal. For a guy like me just trying to make it through the week, that's basically a 5-star experience. I was picturing it, a mountain of crisp lettuce, a lake of creamy Italian, maybe even some of those fancy croutons. Heaven. So I'm at the salad bar in my zone, strategically layering cucumbers and cherry tomatoes like I'm building the Leaning Tower of Pisa, only tastier. That's when I vaguely registered her, a woman a few feet away, radiating impatience. She was doing that little foot tap thing, eyes darting around. I figured, waiting for a friend, maybe her server's swamped. Not my circus, not my monkeys. My mission was leafy greens, and I was committed. I just about perfected my salad masterpiece and was eyeing the soup station, probably broccoli cheddar, fingers crossed, when I heard a sharp, ahem, excuse me. I glanced over. It was impatient lady, now staring daggers right at me. Yes, I asked, probably with a bit of salad dressing on my chin. Well, are you going to serve me or just stand there all day? She snapped. Her tone suggested I'd just personally insulted her entire ancestral line. I blinked. Me serve her. I glanced down at my very civilian-looking polo shirt and jeans. No name tag, no apron, definitely no company logo. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't actually work here, I said, trying for polite confusion. I'm just getting my lunch. Don't lie to me, she practically hissed, her voice ratcheting up a few decibels. I saw you were just standing around. Some people actually want to eat. Okay, now I was getting a little annoyed. This wasn't just a simple mistake anymore, this was an accusation. Ma'am, I promise you I'm a customer just like you. I gestured vaguely with my salad tongs, which probably didn't help my case. I'm about to get some soup. Just as she was winding up for another salvo, a figure in a crisp manager's uniform materialized beside us. Is there a problem here? He asked, his voice calm but firm, a life raft in a sea of crazy. Yes, there is, the woman declared, turning her full fury on him. This employee of yours is incredibly rude. He's been ignoring me and refusing to do his job. She pointed an accusing finger at me, nearly jabbing me in the eye. My jaw kind of dropped. Employee, rude. I was just trying to enjoy my pre-entree salad. The manager, bless his soul, looked from her to me, then back to her. He had that weary senile expression. Ma'am, he began, his voice still even, this gentleman isn't an employee. He's a customer enjoying his lunch. He even pulled out his own business card. I'm the manager. If you need assistance, I'd be happy to help. You'd think that would be the end of it, right? Oh no, this lady was committed to her narrative. He's lying, you're covering for him, she shrieked. I want him fired, I demand he be fired. This is the worst service I've ever received. By now, a few other diners were starting to stare. I just kind of stood there, salad plate in hand, feeling like I was in some bizarre hidden camera show. The manager tried to reason with her, explaining again very patiently that I was, in fact, not on the payroll. But she was having none of it. He's lazy and disrespectful, you need to get rid of him. Then came the profanity, a string of words that would make a sailor blush, all because she couldn't get her salad on demand from a random dude. Honestly, a small, inappropriate part of me was finding it hilarious. Who gets this worked up over a salad bar? The manager's patience, saintly as it was, finally wore thin. His calm demeanor shifted to something more steely. Ma'am, he said, his voice now carrying a clear edge, you're causing a disturbance. I'm going to have to ask you to leave, he paused. If you don't, I will call the police. That seemed to finally penetrate her rage-fueled bubble. Her face went from puce to a sort of mottled red. She snatched up her 2 bewildered-looking kids, who'd been silently observing this whole meltdown, and stormed out, muttering about terrible service and probably lawsuits. The door slammed behind her, leaving a stunned silence in her wake. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. The manager turned to me, shaking his head. Sir, I am so sorry you had to deal with that. No worries, I said, finally moving towards the soup. Dinner and a show, right? He chuckled, then asked if I'd mind giving him my contact details for an incident report. Absolutely, I said. Anything to help. I finally got my entree, and let me tell you that unlimited soup and salad never tasted so good. Peace at last. A few days later, I got a call from someone at their corporate office. They wanted my side of the story. I told them exactly what happened, trying not to laugh too much. To my surprise, a week later, a letter arrived. It was an apology from the restaurant chain, thanking me for my cooperation and, get this, a $50 gift card. So yeah, I basically got paid to be mistaken for an employee and verbally abused. Best $50 I never technically earned. Part of me still wonders if she pulls that stunt everywhere, hoping for freebies. You know, the customer is always right, even when they're accusing the wrong guy. Anyway, that's my brush with salad bar justice. Stay sane out there, folks.
Click here for another great one, you won't regret it.